Today's going to be one of those videos where we cover a buffet of players. We're going to talk about 22 wide receivers, trying to make it in a timely manner. We're going to go over the advanced metrics, go over the values, maybe some projections, really just talk ball on the player, and then you take this information, the advanced data and everything else, and see what you want to do with these players when it comes down to draft day. Before we dig in, though, you need to click that subscribe button right now because we're talking ball. We're talking about these players every single day, especially leading up to your draft. You're going to know more about these players than anybody else in your league. When it comes to waiver wire in season, that's where I run hot because I'll go deeper than anybody else here on the YouTube streets. I'll talk about those diamonds in the rough. I'll talk about those 20 running backs just sitting on the back end of rosters. So if you're in deeper leagues or if you're looking for upside plays, I'm definitely going to be your guy. Click that button right now. Stop missing out. Let's go through this buffet of wide receivers. Calvin Ridley, you're up. DeAndre Hopkins, nursing an injury. This is going to be his time to build rapport with Will Levis. Will Levis is going into year 2, a young quarterback prospect who loves to push the ball downfield. He is very aggressive. Calvin Ridley last year with the Jaguars had some good weeks, multiple wide receiver 1 performances, and a lot of down weeks. When you really think about this offense, realistically, I could see something like that where he's spotty off and on, maybe some down performances. I look for him to have a decent season. I look for him to be a surprise asset. It's all on Will Levis' shoulder. He is very aggressive. He loves to push the ball downfield. I look for Calvin Ridley to be good on the air yards, probably about 90 to 100, somewhere around there. I look for him to be good on the air yards and good on the target share. With DeAndre Hopkins there, when he's back healthy, DeAndre Hopkins is going to push target share. Tyler Boyd too. But I look for Ridley to get around 22, 20%-ish. Somewhere around there. I can't see him push 25 to 30 unless somebody gets hurt. If that happens, that could happen. But I look for the air yards to be good because Will Levis loves to push the ball downfield. I look for Ridley to create separation and get targets. I see about a 20 to 25% target share, somewhere in that range. On the low, 18 to 20, but somewhere around 22-ish, where he was at last year, and pushing around 100 air yards a game, somewhere around there, 90 on the low. So probably something spotty what we saw last year, and he was winning weeks last year. He had a lot of down games. But if you play the matchups with him, and if Will Levis hits, he might give you more stable production. And he's going cheap. It'll be cheaper in home redraft leagues. Round 5 ADP on Underdog Fantasy. Possibly round 7-ish in your home league. But that's a cheap proposition, especially if you're looking for like a wide receiver 3. Or if you're going 0 RB, wide receiver 4 5. Or if you want heavy RB and you're looking for a veteran with some stability or potential stability, maybe this could be your get. But it really depends on how you're building your roster. Courtland Sutton. If you want to talk about how you're building your rosters, he may be for you. He may be something you do not want anything a part of. But it really depends on draft day, how your roster is constructed. Because it's not like Courtland Sutton's had great quarterback play recently, but he can be somewhat productive. He had 3 wide receiver 1 weeks last year. Brandon Ayuk, who's getting traded soon, had 4, and he had some basic stability underneath that because he can get air yards downfield. Only 68.1 last year, but he's been noted to get the deep ball, and that is something you're going to have to pay attention to with these new quarterbacks. 84.2% route participation rate. He's always going to be on the field, getting probably about 6 targets per game. He's going to be stable. He's going to be cheap. Round 8 price tag on Underdog Fantasy might be a little bit cheaper in your home leagues, maybe around 9-ish, something like that. So if you're a team that went running back, or if that just happened to fall in your lap that way, maybe the first 5 rounds you went 4 running backs because of the values. Maybe the first 6 rounds you went 3 or 4 running backs, and you're looking on the back end and nail wide receiver. He could get you some stability. The risk here is the quarterback play. He's had injury issues throughout his career. It's been up and down with that. When he's healthy on the field, even with bad quarterback play, when things have been rocky, he has been okay. He hasn't been gangbusters, but he's been okay. But for an asset, round 8 on Underdog, where it's wide receiver heavy, so you're probably going to catch him at around 9 to 10 price tag in your league. You can't expect him to be Justin Jefferson, but again, getting 12 points per game with bad quarterback play, which is more than likely what you're going to get because he's going to get targets and deep targets at that. Something you may want to take note of, Amari Cooper is a cheap asset. The chart down here looks very weird considering that 51-point game, but he is a consistent asset as well. On top of that, 8.5 targets a game. I look for this team to be throwing the ball a little bit because they don't really have running backs right now. They got Jerome Ford, and we got to see what's going on with Nick Chubb because he's squatting the weight room right now, but he's not really on the field. That's something that you can't count him out for, but Nick Chubb's probably not going to be on the field. But Jerome Ford's pretty much the only running back there. They got other running backs. I'm kind of joking about that, but I'm kind of not. 40% share of the air yards. Jerry Jeudy's going to tap into some of that. At Cooper's age right now, probably shouldn't be getting around 40% and pushing 25% target share, but he's also very good. A very underrated wide receiver here. Can create separation. Nasty route runner. Generational prospect coming out of Alabama, just had a weird career. 14.2 average depth of target. Deshaun Watson's going to push it downfield to him. He's good at getting it downfield. He can be a very productive wide receiver. And the air yards goes his way. The targets go his way. 121 air yards a game. That is phenomenal. On a 23% target share. That means he's getting some rockets going his way. That means the acuity of balls are very hard to catch sometimes because those are rockets. Rockets deep downfield. But if you bring some of those in, you got some splash performances. That could happen, especially in the right matchups. If you're looking at round 4 draft capital, we could see some of this impacted. I would guess the air yards maybe a little bit. The target share should not dip below 20% if he's healthy and on the field. That's just not realistic to me. At the lowest, 18-19%, but I don't see that even with Jerry Jeudy there. We could see 2 20% wide receivers on there, and it'd be fine. The offense would still hum the same. I see around 23-25%-ish. I could definitely see that in the target share. Air yards, I could see going down to like 100 to 110. 95 to 110, 90 to 110, something like that. But that's still considered tops in the league. It's still considered very good. Amari Cooper, round 4 draft capital, 40 ADP. You're going to catch him a little bit cheaper in your home league drafts. Round 6s probably in home leagues. When you guys start drafting, drinking beers later this month, you might want to look at that considering the target share. Targets are going to be there. Brandon Cooks. Again, if you want to go cheap at wide receiver, this might be your guy. This might be your guy if you want to go cheap. If you're going Aldi's for wide receivers, Brandon Cooks might be your guy. Again, I'm not saying he's Justin Jefferson, but Michael Gallup's gone. More targets should be going his way. He should be getting more air yards. He's good at getting downfield. He still has that speed. A great separator. Has a rapport with Dak. He has been making plays in training camp too with Dak and Trey Lance. That has been happening. I expect the target share to go up. 17, 18, 20% range. Somewhere around there. Air yards, 80 to 90. I'm guessing that. Jalen Tolbert's going to eat into some of this production that Michael Gallup left, but it ain't going to be too much. I look for him to have like 12 points per game, maybe somewhere around there if he's really cooking. If the Cooks is cooking. But round 10 draft capital, maybe even cheaper in your redraft league, especially once we get later, because this is Underdog Fantasy ADP. They go ham at the wide receivers. That being said, if you're going running back early, you're looking for stability late because you're looking for that wide receiver 2, 3, 4, 5. Brandon Cooks might be something you're looking at. If I'm going wide receiver heavy in the start of my draft, then obviously in this part of the draft, I'm going running back. And it really depends on how you're building your team. Jackson Smith-Njigba, round 7 draft capital, might be a little cheaper, but this is a good speculation play because how many rookie wide receivers catch like 60-some balls for over 600-some yards and not get touted? Especially in this day and age, he's getting slept on a little bit because of that. And also some plays called back. Started the season off injured. The year prior at Ohio State, he was injured. Still got a 17% target share. The ADOT was low, but we know he can command a higher ADOT, average depth of target there, so he can get deeper targets. Tyler Lockett's still there. I like him as a cheap get for Dynasty as a speculation, but for redraft as a speculation, and if this team's got to push it downfield, he might be seeing an increase in workload. Still getting almost 6 targets per game in this offense as a rookie. As a rookie, some of these numbers are starting to say, hey, this guy's teetering into something. And we're in round 7 where you speculate on these wide receivers. Everybody in his round at wide receiver here is a speculation play. Brian Thomas, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Keon Coleman, Jordan Addison. And I want to stop here for just a second. A speculation play is an investment term that you're investing into an asset that has the potential to shoot to the moon, but is also very risky. So think about that. Think about the price point of these players in your draft. When I say a player is a speculation play, that means there are outliers in their portfolio or outliers in how they play the game or their situation that could allow them to go to the moon. But there's also risks in their game. Like, for instance, with Jackson Smith-Njigba, we have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, 2 very good running backs. That kind of makes it a little bit risky. But now we're getting to the point where gamers are drafting this speculation play, and it's taboo to do so with these wide receivers because things are starting to tear off. And honestly, in the back half of your drafts, running backs, wide receivers, you do not want to draft gatekeepers anyways because they're not going to win you games. Not many games. And they're pretty much just going to clog your roster. They'll feel alright because they'll get you 10 points here and there. And if we're talking about upside, we're going to want to talk about George Pickens. He's been balling out at training camp. He has been going off. I'm going to have a highlight video on him from training camp soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. He made a play today even. Just rose up and grabbed it like this, snatched it down. And Justin Fields is gelling with him. And if Justin Fields and George Pickens are on the field together, George Pickens will see around a 25% target share or better. Even with Brandon Ayuk there. If Brandon Ayuk goes there, this team is going to be a little bit more electric. Look for George Pickens to be the wide receiver 1 starting off. He's got the rapport. He's the guy. He is the man on the block there. But look at him. 4 wide receiver 1 weeks. Brandon Ayuk last year had 4 wide receiver 1 weeks. George Pickens did not have any quarterback play last year. He's getting it this year. One of these quarterbacks are going to win out. One of these quarterbacks is going to be the guy. If it starts out being Russ, I would not be surprised if Fields comes in later in the season. I'm not worried about it. It's still an upgrade over what they had last year. I look for his air yards to increase 90 to 100, 110 or more, something like that. I look for him to be 22% target share-ish, maybe around 25%. Brandon Ayuk could cut into that, but there should be a ramp-up period to that too. But George Pickens is the man. Russ Wilson wants to throw the deep ball. He wants to push it, and he wants to keep his career going. And if he wants to do that, George Pickens will be the guy. Justin Fields knows George Pickens from back in high school. They got already a rapport together. You see it in training camp. We cover that every day. That's why I do the clips for you. But Ricky Pearsall is walking into a situation here where a lot of people were not paying attention to them because they thought Brandon Ayuk and Debo were going to be there forever. Now Brandon Ayuk is getting traded, more than likely. Cap off to Pretty Ricky for calling that out. Brandon Ayuk, probably a Steeler, is a Steeler. Probably by the time you watch this video, Ricky Pearsall's value is jumping through the roof. Probably going to be round 9, round 7, round 6 as a speculation play. It's going to jump on underdog. You better get your draft picks in right now. That is going up. You're going to watch a video here in about a week and a half, 2 weeks from now. Round 6 draft capital, round 7 with those other rookie wide receivers. Malachi Corley, a rookie wide receiver on the cheap, but he is getting looks in training camp. He is getting opportunity. He's going to be in that Randall Cobb role around the line of scrimmage, getting yards after the catch. He is the yak king. He is jacked and got speed. He's going to be used around the line of scrimmage. Breece Hall is going to get a lot of those targets. I look for his value to go up if something happens to Breece Hall. Also, Garrett Wilson's going to see a 25 to 30% target share easy off the rip. But Corley could have his moments. If I could guess his point potential per game that he might be able to take advantage of for DFS, but some low ball performances mixed in there, and really his performances being impacted if there's injuries throughout the season, a guy to pay attention to. You might be plucking him off waivers. I would look at him if something happens to Breece Hall. Braylon Allen getting touches up the gut. Malachi Corley getting the Breece Hall targets. That could be something we could be seeing if something happens to Breece Hall. Be prepared. Just be prepared. But Curtis Samuel is going to be getting similar workload, but he's a smaller wide receiver, but we got speed. But we got a lot of wide receivers in this offense that can stretch it downfield. He can get those short targets. He has been competitive wherever he's been at in fantasy. He's had some competitive weeks last season, especially with target share, 16.4% in Washington last year. When you looked at the targets in Washington in the game logs, they were always spread out. They were always mixed up. Curtis Samuel was really pushing for the targets there, very competitive. Also, he's going to get the short targets, but he's got the speed to get the yards after the catch. Expect him to get around 10 points per game, maybe 11, 12 on the top end. Jameson Williams. Will Fuller effect in full effect here. And that's what he is. He might get more opportunity this year. Looks like it's increasing by the year incrementally. That being said, Will Fuller effect. Some of you kids don't know who Will Fuller is and what the Will Fuller effect is. It's a scientific term for fantasy football that this wide receiver is ultra splashy. Not like your mom splashy, but ultra splashy, where you're going to get a lot of nothing weeks. But then all of a sudden, bam, you get that wide receiver 1 week, 40 points, you don't know where it happened, then a lot of nothing, then another one. And then maybe like back in the season, you might reel off like 3 of those. And next thing you know, there's pandemonium throughout the offseason. Then we start the process over again. That's the Will Fuller effect. Do you want assets like that? Do you want a player like that? They're good for DFS. They're good for best ball. They're also good picking up off waivers and then putting in your lineup when you're hurting and just praying. I say that a lot in the waiver wire videos. You put them in the lineup, you just pray. You just pray because you're trying to win that week. You're playing the toughest team in your league, and this guy can shoot off any week, but you know he's more likely going to get you 5 points, but he could get you 40, and you're just praying because the other guys, they might get you 10 to 12, but you know what? They're not going to win you that week. That's Jameson Williams. His price tag is hefty. Remember, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta, between them, they're going to take 50 to 60% of the targets. Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get a lot of targets. They're also going to run the ball at a good clip. Jameson Williams is going to get you those splashy moments. He is. But do you want that type of asset? Keon Coleman? He might be like that during his rookie season because he's a rookie with a rookie ramp up. He's also in a situation where the quarterback likes him, where the quarterback fits well for his skill set. Still a speculative asset. Remember what I taught you. Speculative asset, especially with these rookies. We got a lot of high-end rookies. Round 7, maybe a little bit cheaper in your home league draft unless you live in Buffalo. But at this range, you're trying to splash up on these wide receivers. Rome Odunze, ultimate splash play wide receiver here because you're paying up for Malik Neighbors. You're paying up for Marvin Harrison Jr. for that talent level. Rome Odunze is not far off. Some people have Rome Odunze ahead of those guys, and he's got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore to compete with a rookie quarterback. But round 6 draft capital in the range where it's nothing but speculative assets here. If he hits big, if he hits like a Justin Jefferson type wide receiver, and he's looking good in training camp, he has done nothing but look good this whole entire time. This could be a wide receiver that just goes off and get targets. He's got a rapport with Caleb Williams. It could be. This could be the gamble to make. And you know what? When these speculation assets don't hit, guess what you can do with them? Take them back to the waiver wire and get you somebody else. Turn and burn and get you some running backs. Build up that running back depth chart. Get you more running backs. When your running backs get hurt, work on that. Get you some guys off waivers. Get them early and fight for the waiver wire, giving you more ammo. And your roster cloggers are not preventing you from doing that. So you're able to turn and burn. That's what's good about speculation plays. If they hit, if you get 1 or 2 of them to hit, you're probably going to win your league. If they don't hit, they flop, guess what? You return them to the waiver wire, pick somebody up off waivers, and maybe they score 10 points per game. Guess what? Those guys around his range, probably scoring around 10 points per game, so you're not really getting a net loss. Rome Odunze here, tons of upside. We called him Marvin Harrison Jr. After Dark because Pac-12 After Dark, he was making splash plays. We're talking about splashing all day. That's what we're doing. Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, 4.2 speed. Unlike anything you ever seen except for Tyreek Hill. He's got a different type of speed. But Worthy's got the Jets. They're trying to get their Tyreek Hill back. But he's got speed to burn. And I said this earlier in a video. There's going to be some games where nothing happens. And there's going to be some moments where you're scratching your head. Then all of a sudden, coverage busts. Xavier Worthy by himself down the field brings it in. It could be up and down all season, or it could be a player that hits. But round 6, maybe round 7 draft capital in your home league. I don't want to stretch it too far for those guesses, but might be a player you might be interested in. I hope you like Patrick Mahomes. I hope you think he's a good player, because a rookie wide receiver, first rounder with good speed, with the opportunity to play with Marquise Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice, might be a player that sneaks up on you. Jalen McMillan is a player to pay attention to off waivers, a player to pay attention to during preseason. Look for his stock to rise, especially in underdog drafts, maybe in your league. He was productive in college. He is gelling well with Baker Mayfield. He's making play after play after play after day after day after day. Guy to pay attention to. Brian Thomas Jr. has been quiet. I've been paying attention to Jaguars media. Looks like the cards are held tightly to their chest. Not much is getting out in terms of clips, in terms of coverage. Also around Jaguars Twitter, they're trying to say he's having a bad camp. I'm trying to read through the tea leaves. Sounds like everything's okay. It's just kind of quiet. Everything's held towards their chest right now. They're not getting much news out compared to other teams. That being said, Brian Thomas Jr.'s got speed to burn. He fits with Trevor Lawrence's skill set. If he's on the field, running routes, seeing snaps, getting targets, opportunity to blow up. Again, speculation asset. Could hit early in the season, late in the season, or not at all. But again, remember what I taught you about those type of players. Javon Baker's going off in training camp. I told you so. I told you to watch out for these wide receivers on the Patriots. Watch out for Drake May. Watch out for this team. Just watch out for fantasy production, but he's cheap. He's cheap. And if you want a cheap wide receiver, you're locked up on running backs, you're looking for some upside, you're trying to win on those edges, Javon Baker could be the edge for you. Greg Dortch is another edge for you, as these Cardinal wide receivers are looking good in training camp. Greg Dortch always looks good. He's a smaller wide receiver. He's going to get those short targets, but the target share could be there in some games. Look for him to be a good matchup play or a what-the-heck flex play. Same with Michael Wilson. Looking good in training camp. We talked about him earlier this week, but he's making play after play after play. Really leaning into year 2 right now. Marvin Harrison Jr., round 2 draft capital. Very expensive, but when you get in the second round of drafts this year, it's getting kind of ugly. Like, there's good players there, but there's question marks too, especially on underdog drafts. You might catch him a round cheaper in your home league draft, maybe even 2 rounds cheaper. But that being said, he's a tremendous talent. He is looking good at training camp. He is making plays, and he is looking good. Much like Malik Neighbors, he's the albatross. I do not see him being much cheaper than Marvin Harrison Jr. anymore. I look for that price to go up. He might even exceed him in some leagues, especially if you're around the New York area, LSU area, Baton Rouge area, because Malik Neighbors has got the upside. He's been cooking in camp. Remember, he's in New York. He's going to get all the clips. Arizona media, sometimes they got to film in the parking lot. Totally different. But both players are making plays. Both players are generational talents. Both players got upside. I like them both, and I think they're both going to be tremendous. Jordan Addison, if you're looking for another speculation play, you may want to scratch your head on this one, because we got some quarterback situation here. Sam Darnold versus J.J. McCarthy. A lot of different news coming out of here between the two quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy's been looking good these last few days. These last few days, he's been looking better than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold started camp looking better than J.J. McCarthy. Also looked better during minicamp and OTAs, which he should. He's a veteran. Sam Darnold will probably win the job. It might be a little bit slower than expected, because this team was top 5 in the league in pace of play the last 3 years, and they want to be a faster pace. J.J. McCarthy is going to be starting quarterback sooner or later, and he's very aggressive with the football. That's one thing we can say. He can be very aggressive with the football. That might be bad football-wise. Fantasy-wise, that could be very good, considering you got Justin Jefferson and company. Jordan Addison, wide receiver 47, though. That's cheap, and he might get you more production than realized. A good downside to him as well. A good speculation play. But Jalen Tolbert's a wide receiver to pay attention to. You might pluck him off waivers. Pay attention to him. Michael Gallup's gone. Someone's got to be the wide receiver 3 there. He has been looking good in training camp, making play after play after play after play. That being said, maybe that equates to 5 points per game instead of 3. Maybe 8. Or maybe this could be a season, because he did score well in college with his production. He's a G5 prospect, a small school prospect at the NCAA level. That being said, Jalen Tolbert might be just developing. might be just developing, might be taking ownership. This team likes him. They did not bring any wide receivers of consequence, and we hear that through the Cowboys media. The team likes him. We're hearing good things about him. Round 18, he's not going to get drafted in your league. Pay attention to him off waivers. Yoshi has been doing well in training camp. Yoshi. I bit my lip. I can't say his name right. It's going to just sound like a bunch of lisp coming out of my mouth. But Yoshi has been rolling. Good size, adjusted athleticism, good speed to burn, can get downfield. That being said, Yoshi's on the come up here. Could be a splash option. Could be a surprise asset here for fantasy football. Jermaine Burton, the rookie wide receiver who was drafted in the 3rd round, could go off as well. He's been looking good in training camp, minicamp, and OTAs. Pay attention to him. But those are 22 wide receivers that we're talking about today. The buffet has been ate up. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. One, thanks for watching. Catch you on the next video.